Today is February 24th, 2021, and today we're going to continue and finish this just two parts I'm doing on a series called Nonsense God. Yesterday we talked about the cycles of theism, and basically what that means is that within the human soul, I'm arguing that there's this cycle of how we conceive of this idea of God. And that God is just a word, but it refers to a bigger, much bigger set of ideas about us and how we relate to the world, and things we understand and things that are beyond what we understand. And so that's what I talked about yesterday in Cycles of Theism, the different types of theism and how they form just kind of this loop that people can get caught in and the way that they think about it. But today I'm calling this Your Yoke, because I'm going to make it more personal to determine what is your God, and do you have a God? Even if you say, well, I'm an atheist, I believe there is no God. Well, I'm going to argue that that depends on how you define God. If you define God as a man in the sky, as many atheists do, then certainly you do not believe in God, you have no God. But if God is what I'm about to show you here, then you do have a God, whether you consider yourself an atheist or not. So, yesterday we talked about how what your God is essentially the one who has most control or power. The one who has most control or power. That's what a God is. We talked about chaos. In all the ancient creation myths, there's chaos, and the gods, they were polytheistic, most of the ancient religions before today. The gods emerge from chaos and then take control and power over it, put it into order. They usually create man as part of this process. And then from that view, though, we could say that we, people, are those who face the chaos of this world, put order into it. We create new technologies and other things to control the chaoses of the world that hurts us, that comes against us, the wildness of nature. And in doing that, we can even take on the view that we are this thing that evolved. If you notice evolution, and I've never heard anybody talk about this, but I think the ancient creation myths connect with evolution, because basically in the ancient creation myths, the gods, the ones who control the chaos and put order to it, they emerge from it. And what does evolution say? Well, we evolved. We weren't always there, but we evolved from this nothingness chaos, this chaotic thing, and now we, people who are personal and more better, can take control over it and influence it, and even influence the course of our own evolution and these types of ideas. Kind of scary stuff, though, when you look into it, because do we really know what we're doing? Do we really know what we're doing with the things that we do? So that's part of the thing. So that was yesterday. But today, we're going to give a new definition of a god or gods based on this Hebrew word here. So, yesterday we talked about the Hebrew word for God. A singular God is an El. It's pronounced El. I wrote it correctly this time. It's read from right to left in Hebrew. So it's the ox. That's an or ah sound, and then El, or the staff, shepherd's staff, which is an El sound. So El or Al. And actually, the word Allah, the name for God in Islam, comes from this same root, because it's a Semitic root. So Elohim, Allah, Eloah in Hebrew, which is they're all connected to this ancient root. So now, if you break this, Hebrew was originally a pictograph script, so it was pictures like Egyptian hieroglyphs. So if you break it down by meaning, an ox, which if you don't know what an ox is, it's a bull who got castrated to serve on a farm, essentially. So you take a male bull, very strong creature, you take away his testosterone by cutting off his genitals, essentially, and then he becomes your servant, and that's an ox. And so the ox is a symbol of strength and power, and they would use oxen to create the furrows in the ground that they needed to put the seeds in to grow their plants. And so that was an ox, symbol of strength, okay? But then the staff, a shepherding, another farming symbol, is a symbol of power and authority, I don't know if, I think you can, this may have got twisted just a little bit. There we go. So authority, symbol of authority. And so the shepherd protects the sheep with it. He's able to like guide them, beat off predators. But also the staff symbol, many believe that it was a symbol for the yoke, and that connects to the ox. So a yoke is this, it kind of looked like this. It's the symbol that was like this block of wood with two holes, and they would put oxen in yokes, two of them. They would put these oxen in these yokes, and then the oxen would be linked together through the yoke, and then they would attach something to the back of the yoke that would drag in the ground to create the furrows. They would use the ox's strength to do this. And the oxen, you see, they had to be trained to do this. So what they would do is that once there was a strong ox, one who was older, more experienced, who had more strength, they would put the strong one in one side of the yoke, and then in the other side of the yoke, they would put the weak ox, and that ox was in training. And so the weak one, through working with the strong one and drawing strength from the strong one, would get stronger, and then they would become eventually equally yoked, which that ties into the marriage term for that. But that's the idea. It's this partnership of these oxen working together, a stronger and a weaker, and the weak one becomes stronger through working together with him. So this ties to the idea of a covenant, which is a Bible term, but it just means essentially a partnership. A partnership, a working together on the same task, on the same project, the same goal, but you're working together in this partnership. And God, in the Hebrew Bible, he makes his covenant with the people of Israel. And so God then is the stronger ox, because that's what this idea of God is. It's essentially, it's the stronger ox, based on this word picture. God, an El, is a stronger ox that is yoked to the weaker ox. So you're God, you're the weaker ox, if you can admit that you're not all in control. You may have a measure of control over this world, we all do, but we cannot control everything. And so with that in mind, we have to recognize, well, what is beyond our control? What can we draw strength and power from to help us in our weaknesses, to get us through whatever our goals are, whatever we're working toward? And that is your God. That is your stronger ox. That's what you're yoked to. That's the idea here. And you have a covenant or partnership with that, whatever it is that you use, whether it's a thing, a person, a group of people, inanimate things, but things like, it can be anything, really, but it's something. So this is what gets us to today. You can have one God or you can have many gods, but what a God is it's your source of strength and power, your source of strength and power. That's your God. Where do you get strength and power from? And it's going to take a really arrogant person to say, you know what? I am my source of strength and power. I don't need anyone else. There are people like that out there, and those people learn a lot of hard lessons because we need something more than ourselves. we cannot control everything. As much as we wish we could, we do not have all power. We do not have all authority. We do not have all strength. We have weaknesses. We are only human. And it's in these weaknesses where we need a source of strength to partner with a source of strength and bond in this way and draw strength so that we can grow and transcend our weaknesses through our source of strength. So that's what a God is. It's your source of strength. Now, with that in mind, two last things I want to talk about. There's many gods in this world from what I'm talking about. There's many things that you can choose to draw your source of strength from. You can choose other people. You can choose a person. You can choose a parent. You can choose a significant other. You can choose things. You can choose entertainment, television shows. You can choose food. You can choose substances such as alcohol or drugs. You can choose many things to be a source of strength for you. But the question is, are these things really making you stronger? Are they worthy to be yoked with you? And there are gods who are not useful for us or for our lives, who don't really help us, who really only keep us weak or maybe even make us weaker. Some things we could yoke ourselves to, and we were the strong one, but we become weaker by putting ourselves in a partnership with that thing that we're trying to draw strength from, and in reality, it's sucking strength from us. So, what is your God? What is your source of strength? And here's an easy way to answer that question. The greatest commandment in the Bible for what the Bible's God tells us to do: love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Well, what do you love with all your heart? What do you love with all your soul? What do you love with all your mind? What do you love with all your strength? What do you love most? That's going to be your God. I will argue that's going to be what you draw strength from, because love is central. That's why later in the Bible it even says the one true God, he is love. So think about that. Where do you draw your strength from? What is the source of your strength and your power? Most of these gods that we're going to think of are things that we can sense. We can sense with our five senses. We can touch them. We can see them. And that's why this was such a problem in the Bible, idolatry, because we want a God that we can sense. You know, we want to see, we want to touch. That's why they created idols. And to be clear, the idea behind an idol was, back then they understood that there was an invisible world and invisible spiritual beings. They were called Elohim. It was, like I said, a class of being. They were called gods. There were other names for them too, but the idea was there were these invisible beings, and when they built these images, the goal was to get the invisible being to come and activate its power through the image and share that power into the physical world through the image. So it was actually, in their minds, it was a technology. You could think of it like an antenna. They were using the idol as an antenna to draw the power out from the invisible realm and radiate it into this realm. And so the idol then became, not because the idol was the God, no, it was the symbol, it was the, what's a better word, beacon? It was the connecting point, the point of the, you might even call it the physical yoke, through which the strength was put out into the community of people. And so, because people want something they can sense, but the tough thing for the God of the Bible, and this is why I'm calling this series Nonsense God, is that he is a God who many think of as nonsense, you know. And this is a bit of a pun, but it's just also, you know, you can't see him. He's an invisible God. You can't, there's so many things where you can't interact with him except in ways that go beyond our senses. We have to have faith. And we have to draw strength from this invisible and to love this invisible nonsense God. And it was very difficult for the Israelites, which is why God became a man in Jesus, so that we could sense and see him and see, okay, this is who this invisible God is. The Father, he's invisible, but he sent the Son. Every time we saw the God of the Bible, it was the Son. I believe the Bible says that. And so Jesus then is the way we can sense this God. He is the image of God. The Bible says twice in the New Testament, Jesus is the image of God, the perfect image. And so what does Jesus say then as the representative in the correct image that we can sense of the true nonsense God, the Father, who calls us to worship him only and love him with all that we are? Jesus says in Matthew 11, 28 through 30, using this whole picture here, it'll all connect. Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." These other gods, they make things hard. It's already hard. We need easy and light, and that's what Jesus comes to offer.